Sponsored programs is a great way for faculty to get funds for programs and innovations that they're interested in. But what can these grants and funds be used for, and how does it impact students? In this episode, we're going to talk to the student workers that make up the SPARC office, talk about their experiences, as well as how have they seen grants impact student learning at SUU. So join us as we begin to look at how grants impact student learning. Greetings all. I am here with Sylvia Bradshaw with the SPARC office and her student team members. Real quick, tell us who you are and what is your role in the SPARC office?
Yes. Well, my name is Lawrence Mbaki, and I am the pre-award ambassador. I work directly under Jen Stewart, pre-award research administration, and we tackle all pre-award work. So from proposal development, budgeting, and submitting your proposal to the sponsors. And so that's my primarily responsibilities. And I work also under Katie Gomez-Freeman in her work as well. We help write articles for our office with different grants that have been awarded and submissions that have had an impactful award in the university.
My name is Abigail Orozco. I'm the Life Cycle Ambassador, and I work directly under Katie Freeman. She does compliance. I have been mostly focusing on closeouts, but I'm slowly working in post-award and hopefully pre-award by the end of the summer, and it's been really great.
I'm Carson Brown. I'm the post-award ambassador, so everything that happens after being awarded, so lots of accounting and numbers. I work under Carrie Childs, and I work with a lot of modifications and compliance as well.
And I'm sure I'm going to get to know all of you very closely with the AR/VR grant that we have going right now and things that we have taking place with it. So, well, thank you all for being here this morning. So let's go ahead and get started. We've already talked with SPARC a little bit about F&A, and we're going to talk to them a little bit later about the life cycle of a grant. But talk to us a little bit about your roles in SPARC.
That's right. Well, our official titles are SPARC ambassadors, and then with our different works, we are a pre-award side, post-award side, and life cycle side with each of us. Our role is to be just that, an ambassador for the SPARC office. We go out there, we speak to students, faculty members, staff members, and just to get them to know where we are and what we are, and for them to feel free to engage with us in any level. And so that's mainly what our role as student ambassadors is, to represent the SPARC office on campus as students.
Now, you bring up a really interesting thing, because I think a lot of times people think of the SPARC office and they think mainly about how can faculty or staff get grants. But you brought up it being an ambassador to students. Can you speak a little more to like how does the SPARC office work with students?
Yes. We love working with students, obviously, because we're students ourselves. And one of the ways we have worked with students has been in collaborations with the library. We have set up a new Connect grant, specifically it's called, that can help students with a artistic project, travel grants, creative and research projects that they have. And so that helps them to be able to engage with us in the way that faculty members and staff members engage with us as well. Proposal development, writing up their budget, submitting, and post-award work as well. If they're granted the money, we help set up those funds as well. So in a way that we engage with faculty and staff members is the same way we engage with students as well, if they have the desire to further their research project, creative projects, and any other project that they have.
So the grant doesn't have to be something that the university gets and now makes available to students. Students can say, oh, here's a grant that I'm interested in, and apply for it.
Yeah, with the Connect grant, yes.
Awesome. Great. So as a student ambassador, what are some of the benefits that students get from, I mean, obviously getting grants to further research, stuff like that, but are there other benefits that students get to doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. it's really interesting coming in with a student perspective because we are in faculty affairs, and I think that's where we should be. We're supporting faculty in their goals towards tenure, but it's so cool seeing how we can see the encouragement of faculty bringing students into research. I keep thinking of our one of our NASA grants, the wind tunnel grant, and how many students are involved in that process of rebuilding this wind tunnel that so many of our aviation and engineering students use. And it's so cool to walk into that space and seeing students actively engaged in not something that's just on paper, just on a screen, but actually like physically in front of them. It's been really impactful for me, just seeing how students can really drive the academic process.
So Carson, you have an interesting role this year on campus. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about that and your interest in students.
I do have an invested interest in students. So I'm currently the new student body president here at SUU. Yay, I'm very excited. It's really an interesting perspective coming from, student affairs, student government to SPARC to contracts and grants, because we see so many needs of students being met by contracts and grants. The second largest reason why students leave higher education is because of lack of resources. And that's just not just in, lack of resources in food, in rent, in earning money. It's also the resources that you need to continue your education. In this current kind of economic climate where we see the value of getting a bachelor's degree less and less, and a master's, PhD, or a JD even more, there comes an increased need of more intense academic activity that comes through research and grants. So it's been really cool. There's been Lawrence is smiling at me because he knows what I'm going to say. There's been so many times where students have come to me asking me for money because that's part of my job, and unfortunately, budgets run thin, and I'm able to point them towards our office as another resource for them to go onto that trip to learn how to dance with the NYU Ballet, or go and meet other researchers in fields about cancer or cancer research. It's been such an amazing opportunity to bring students' needs into this realm as we're also focusing on faculty.
That's such an interesting perspective too, because it is one of those that, like I was saying earlier, I don't think about students coming to SPARC for resources. I think of SPARC as a faculty and staff focused group. And while that is an important role, it's wonderful to hear that the students have the ability to go, like you said, participate with leading researchers in cancer research and meet and work with people that are in their fields. That's cool. You and I will also be working very closely together as I'm the new staff association president, so we will get to know each other quite a bit. Cool. So tell me a little bit about what it's like as an ambassador. I'm really curious at this idea of an ambassador. So what is it like as an ambassador when you go to meet with a faculty member? So when it's student to student, obviously it's like a peer-to-peer thing, but sometimes I know being a student, it can be somewhat intimidating to talk to a faculty member about, have you thought about these grants?
Well, it's a little intimidating, I won't lie. But it also depends on the faculty member, because depending on how much we work with them or how much we get in contact with them, for me, I'm the point of our office with my email. So everybody's emails come to me and I get to disperse them to everyone. But it's fun because it's a new way to network, and also it's a new way to, gain communicating skills. Because you don't really think as a student you would be talking to faculty as much, and that's one thing I love about our job is I get to open that door and I get to meet so many new faces. And then when I end up in their classes, it's funny because they know me as a student of theirs in their classroom, but also as a SPARC team member.
And a SPARC team professional as well.
Yes. Well, I was going to say, I have no doubt Sylvia is giving you all great professional experience, both, as you were saying, communicating, learning to communicate, and organization, stuff like that.
And this is something that I really love about working in the SPARC office, and I'm so grateful, is because our whole team, our supervisors and our boss, they treat us as young professionals. They don't just treat us as, oh, these are just our student workers, and we're going to give them, you know, just miscellaneous office work. We are right there with them in helping them with proposal development, budgets, and the work of our office. And we get to be treated as just young professionals. We get an opportunity. We went to Washington, D.C. at a national conference for research administrators. We were the first presenters at the regional conference in Tucson last year. And other institutions were so impressed and like, how are you utilizing students in this role? And they wanted some advice, and they spoke to Sylvia. It's like, how can we utilize our students as ambassadors as you do? And so because we are treated as young professionals, we have the confidence to approach a faculty member, a professor, a staff member as that young professional. Because we've been given that mantle, it's easier for us then to carry that mantle too. So with other offices on campus, treat your students as young professionals. They will fill the shoes, as we have had the opportunity to not be afraid or shy to email a professor. Obviously, there's direct reports and things like that, and specifically with deans, Sylvia deals with them and directors and things like that. But professors and staff members, we email them and engage in that way because we are treated as young professionals.
And I couldn't agree with you more, Lawrence. If you have students on campus, treat them as professionals. We do that here in the CTI office. We don't give them just the menial work that we don't want to do. We give them the work and the skills that'll make them successful when they leave here and be a good representative of SUU. So I couldn't agree with that statement more.
And if I could tack onto that, especially now working with a lot of upper administration, it's interesting to see the difference between our office that really genuinely cares about kind of our ideas and our opinions and our standpoint, especially when it comes to F&A, which we'll talk about later. I'm not going to touch on yet. And other places on campus. And I do feel like and this isn't all departments, but there are some departments that do see kind of the student's voice as kind of almost tokenistic of like, oh yeah, sure, we have like the student voice in this, but we're just going to push through it. It's been so imperative to see how beneficial research can be when you have the students pushing it ahead instead of just the professor. I think that's what really differentiates us from, our one institutions, is that our research, although it is for the faculty, it's driven by the students and their needs. And I think that's something really amazing that we get to be part of.
I love that you brought that up. That's such an important key piece. We are a teaching institution. These grants and these opportunities are just absolutely part of that teaching mission and helping these students have opportunities so they are best prepared for the workforce and graduate school.
Absolutely. And I, it is interesting because I know last time we talked, Sylvia, you talked about grants could be as little as $500 or $1,000 up to, I think we were working together on one for over $1 million. And
yep, exactly.
So there's a wide range of these grants, and it doesn't have to be something crazy that you might see at an R1.
Absolutely.
So I want to shift just a little bit because I keep thinking about this wind tunnel that you were talking about. What are some of the experiences that you have seen where these grants, like the wind tunnel, are experiences that you've seen where students have benefited from a faculty member getting a grant?
Oh, well, yeah, wind tunnel is a great example. Yeah, it was so cool, Lawrence and I think maybe, were you?
I was there for a little bit when we did that video.
Yeah, we did a video earlier, just kind of like showcase like the different grants that we worked with and projects that we worked with. And it was so cool walking to that room and then the professor just introducing us to this student who she was on her laptop and she was just working the entire lab. And I thought that was so amazing. And it's a good showcase of what it does actually look like to do research like this. Not just research, other projects like our amazing IIC. And forgive me, I actually have no idea what IIC stands for. Do you?
Intergovernmental Internship Corporation.
That's right.
Corporation.
I might not know what it stands for, but it's a large amount of internships that we have cooperating with, intergovernmental, so specifically with our national and state parks, and getting our students who are interested in forestry and in outdoor recreation majors, which is a huge growing major that we have right now, into the workforce immediately once they get into college. And that's just talking with those students and meeting those students, that is the coolest thing ever. I was actually at Bryce Canyon with the governor the other weekend, but the governor called it SU Eastern, Bryce Canyon, because we send a lot of students there to learn and to grow professionally. That was such a cool recognition that I saw from my kind of home in SPARC, and saw, statewide recognition for it, and I thought that was amazing.
And we really Bryce Canyon really is our eastern campus, because I know we took new faculty there last year in August and introduced them to park rangers and the resources that faculty have when they go to Bryce Canyon. And you don't have to be into forestry or geology or anything like that. You can just take your class over and use their outdoor amphitheater, or the High Institute Plains Research Building. All those are open to SU faculty. So I kind of laugh. That is kind of a true statement when we really think about that. Bryce Canyon is our eastern campus. So, yeah.
One thing that was also fun to see, I remember Dr. Koenig and Dr. Govodich, they got the coral reef beetle research grants to work down in Kanab. And speaking to them and helping write that article, that they get to take students down there, and students are able to study these beetles in that environment, and the excitement that students have to learn and to just be there, like hands-on experience. This is one of SU's mission, that experiential learning. And we get to see it as SPARC ambassadors, and students being engaged in that as well. And being able to, as they were there, Dr. Govodich was telling me, they were like, people were just so interested, like, why are you guys here? And they were able to meet people from all over the world. He was telling me that they met people from Netherlands. They were asking them, so why are your students here? Like, we understand professors doing this, but why students? Like, do they know what they're doing? But yes, the students know what they're doing, because the professor is obviously teaching them all of these things. So it's good to see, like, all these grants that help excite students.
I know that was one of the things that when I started here at SU was huge, was experiential learning and getting students out into the field, getting them into their profession. And whether that was education, whether that was geology, whether that was accounting, it was about getting the students to where they were already learning what it's like to be in that field early on. So I think that's a great example of how we get students out there. So I want to circle back to one other thing, because you brought it up, F&A. All right, you said you wanted to talk about that a little bit, so let's.
So F&A, it's a pretty hot topic, pretty much wherever you go with research administration, and that's totally fine. For those who don't know, F&A stands for Facilities Administration Costs. It's basically overhead. All the I don't want to call it hidden fees, but really kind of the stuff that we don't see, taking resources and funding that contribute to a grant, kind of like, power and water and electricity, janitorial services, our services, HR services. And all of these take a lot, or depending on the grant or project, do take quite a few resources from an institution. And unfortunately, that means, less resources for, faculty, for staff, and especially students. And if it weren't for this F&A fee, we would see tuition covering a lot of these additional hidden fees that we don't really think about. So I think that SPARC is doing an amazing thing of including students into the conversation, because we are a key stakeholder in whether we're involved in the research or not. While I love that we're studying bees and different kind of bees near Kanab or wherever, but if it's taking a chunk out of my tuition, it's not directly impacting me, a silly little philosophy student. then I'm not going to be incredibly happy. So I think involving students when it comes to F&A fees is incredibly important in that conversation of, when is it appropriate to charge that, and when is it appropriate to forego F&A fees and waive it, so that way more students can be involved and we can hire more student workers, or things like that.
Yeah, I know that was a great conversation we had with Sylvia and Carrie a few weeks ago, was the idea that if faculty or staff are not, or even students, I guess, are not putting F&A into their grants, then that cost has to come back somewhere. And whether that's through legislative funds or tuition funds, someone's got to pay that bill. And that it's really important to ensure that we're using our finances wisely. I've learned, Sylvia.
You did a great job.
Good job. So,
Any last thoughts that you want to share with faculty and staff and others across the country that might be listening to this?
include students where you can. I think you'll be so surprised at how you could just give them an inch, they'll run a mile. And usually that's said with not great fervor, but I think our department is a good kind of example of that, of giving students an inch and they'll run a mile. We want something to be dedicated to and be attached to. So whether that's research or research administration or student government, and basically I don't have a life and I love it. It's great. Include students where you can. And tacking on to what Lauren said before, we were the first ever student presenters at a regional conference for research administrators. And while that was cool, it was also a little sad because, I mean, if we're super excited about this at an R3 institution, I mean, what are R1 institutions, afraid of? Let's go for it. This is great.
I'd like to add on to that because we're going into our team, most of them are going to Alaska for another conference, and we're really bummed because us three wanted to go, but you had to present and you had to work with other institutions, and I think that's a great idea, but it's sad because we can't go because there's not a lot of other institutions that have us in their offices, and we want those offices to have more students because you learn so much. I didn't know what SPARC was until I started my internship through the Career Center, and I love it. And I want more institutions to have that because you truly benefit as a student and you learn so much every day. And it's also awesome to, I'm going to brag a little bit, but we have one of the best teams. Everybody pulls in, brings in different ideas, and when we all just put them together, it's just something that we can create, and it's really beautiful. And so I'm really bummed about that, but I'm really grateful for it at the same time, and I really hope the other institutions will get to that because, like Carson said, if we're really excited about it at an R3 level, imagine these R1, R2s, they would do really good.
Abby, I know unfortunately, in the end, you weren't able to attend our conference with us in Tucson because you rightly so had your priorities correct. You had some schoolwork that you needed to stay up on. So, of course, we always put education first. But you were really innovative in a way to still engage in that presentation. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Katie was going to present, Katie Freeman, my biggest mentor. I bug her the most because she has usually all the answers. If not, I know where to go. But she asked me to make a video for her speaking on student involvement and how, as a student being a part of that World Research Administration, how it can affect you and how it can impact those students. And even though I didn't go and I was really bummed, I still got to be a part of it in a way, and I didn't feel super left out. And I also got to watch some webinars online from the office. So being able to take notes and hearing all these other ideas from other institutions, maybe they were bigger than us, maybe they were smaller than us, I still took away so much because I was able to learn just as much if I was there, because I was able to still engage without being there. And that was one of my greatest things of the year, was although I wasn't there this year, I still got to take away and learn, and I'm forever grateful.
I hate to say that there's a positive from the pandemic, but I think so many more conferences are streaming even if the conferences primarily move back face to face, so many more conferences are still streaming certain sessions or key sessions that, when you're not able to attend, you can still go back and watch the recording, or you can go back and participate live. And so I think that's a great way to get involved.
The other beauty of the pandemic was during the 2021 year, our professional organization, Incura, they slashed the prices to attend because there were so many that still had budget restrictions, which made it so that we were able to take all of our students with us to that Washington, D.C. conference. And I'd love to have Lawrence tell us a little bit more about the Catherine Core Travel Award that he received at that conference.
Thank you. Yes, so when we got approved to go to Washington, D.C., and Sylvia came up to me and was like, there's a travel award, the Catherine Core Travel Award, that is awarded to people coming to the conference, specifically people who are diverse and all of that, like minoritized groups who want to go to the conference and don't have the means to. So you can apply for that, and so it goes. I was like, okay, this is exciting. So we did all the work, wrote up kind of like not proposal, just kind of like why I wanted to win, like why I wanted the award. And Sylvia took a look at it and she edited it, and Jen did the same. And I won the award, and it was a good recognition because it was the first time that a student had won the Catherine Core Travel Award.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was a national award.
National
first
award.
student.
And
That's
I
amazing.
was recognized at the conference, and it was really beautiful. We need to see that a student can do so much. I really echo the words of my friends Carson and Abby, that we need to involve students. We have so much energy, we have so much to give, and if we are treated just like lowly students, we will give you lowly students. if we are treated as young professionals, we will give you young professionals that can do the work and can step up to the plate. And this is kind of my parting advice and words to everyone who's listening and other institutions out there. Trust your SPARC office. Your SPARC offices, trust them. They know what they're doing. Sylvia's mentorship, Carrie's mentorship, Jan, Bobby, Katie, they know what they're doing with protecting the university, with being compliant to all these federal or state laws, with helping students, faculty, and staff. We know what we're doing. So trust your SPARC offices and allow them to support you while you're involving students. I think that's a very important advice I can give for people out there.
That's great. That's great. I love if you treat them like lowly students, you're going to get lowly students. So. Well, thank you all for taking the time to talk today and help the university and others understand how SPARC office uses student ambassadors. It's really exciting. I've learned so much just in this short time of talking to you of how students can be more involved and how, as faculty and staff, we're able to benefit students more through the SPARC office. So thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In our next episode, we'll continue talking to the SPARC office and find out how the professional staff that make up the SPARC office can help faculty through the process of writing grants. Join us on our next episode of the Center for Teaching Innovation podcast.